I'm representing that attempt of human unity in Auroville. And it was very interesting to see the conclusive remarks of presentation of Anand, of the solutions offered by Sri Aurobindo. Two movements have to be simultaneously there, and I want to address the same movements in my presentation and trace them back to the Vedic studies. So studies of Rig Veda in the light of Sri Aurobindo led me to very interesting conclusions. That Rig Veda itself was of that integral structure. Now I am using a Gibbserian language. Integral structure means structure which includes these both major movements of oneness and that religious movement of the soul. Since we have very little time, we are given only 40 minutes for three of us. I have my 13 minutes, 33 seconds already gone. So I would go straight to the matter without long introductions. So this integral structure is something to emerge again, and it was achieved once in time. In maybe previous Manvantara, if we speak Indian language, about which our scientific mind knows nearly nothing. And because of that, we have a big misunderstanding, which I would like to address immediately with quotation from Radhakrishnan and his history of Indian philosophy. In the first volume, where he speaks about Sri Aurobindo. And he says that Sri Aurobindo's theory is very interesting, but we cannot accept it because we believe in progress. Now this idea of rapid evolution from nearly savage to civilized man is supported by the science. So 10,000 years back we were in Stone Age. There was nothing for us, and suddenly we evolved into this highly sophisticated civilization with a very complex consciousness. How come? And Sri Aurobindo answers that that is not so, that there were many attempts in the past, many cycles of time, where this evolution took place, and all the structures were evolved to its highest, and again the attempt was taken. So, in Gibbserian view, this evolution took place only once, because he didn't know much about India at that time when he was writing his The Ever-Present Origin. But later in his life, he discovered Sri Aurobindo. And what was interesting, he also admitted that he had an occult influence on his thinking by Sri Aurobindo. And he came here to Sri Aurobindo ashram and met the mother. And he said that she represents exactly that integral structure of consciousness he thought about in his work. Now, why I'm speaking about these structures for so long, taking your time? These structures, starting from archaic, magic, mythical, mental, and finally integral, represent the movement of consciousness and all possible epistemologies. Now, if we take archaic structure, it is a zero-dimensional structure where the subject and object are one. We can say the paradise of Adam and Eve, where they didn't distinguish among themselves, and the world they lived in. But once they tried the apple from the tree of life, they saw the distinction, and they were sent out of the paradise. That fall of life starts or is marking the beginning of magic structure. one-dimensional structure where there is a bigger body of nature and the consciousness of man is identified with this outer body of nature. There is no yet inner consciousness of man. The whole body is one consciousness of which man is a part, and he has to behave in a particular way. In this development, there is another structure coming in, which is mythical, as he calls it, where man suddenly remembers his origin. And he knows that he is coming from some other source, his inner source, which is not identical with nature. This structure is two-dimensional, according to Gebser, is past-oriented, because there is the source we have to return to. It brings the denial of nature. All the ascetics attempts, all the monasteries we have, these are the formations of this structure. Now, these two major structures of oneness of nature and of the inner source, or the soul, which has its origin different from nature, is the whole problem of our existence. These two structures coexist in one being, what we are, and are always in contradiction. These are two formations of our will solution and ashram solution. And Mother somewhere says in Agenda that our will was meant for those who want to live life essentially religious, but who renounce all religions from the past, present, or future. Look at this beautiful statement. Religious life means the life which is centered within this mythical structure, but the cult is renounced. Whatever formation which is restricting that expression of the true being in us is renounced. Now, what is happening next, according to Gebser, is the movement towards mental structure. Mental structure appears recently with Greeks, starting from Plato, Aristotle, from Socrates actually. In India, it was the same movement. We have Sankhyayic paradigm, which is influencing and building up a mental view on the world. What is this mental view? It's quite interesting. There is a reorientation of consciousness towards outside, towards the objective reality again. But now it is a bit different because there is a mythical structure. There is already recognition of your origin and the soul different from nature. So it's as if the innermost magic structure was brought out into the objective viewing by the soul. This structure is the most critical, as Gebser says. It demolishes all other views. It is very much against mythical structure, against religions as we see it in the development of last 2 millennia. The struggle between scientific, materialistic mind against the religious dogma, so to say. So what we can see that the magic structure is the foundation in which there is a dweller. It's like magic is the foundation, then there is a dweller, and on the top we have a mental structure, objectively existing magic structure, which is like a sandwich, where the soul is suppressed from both sides. That's why mental structure repeats the magic structure. We can see it clearly in all our technology. Technology is the magic structure manifested. Our supermarkets, it's that magic, finally, which we get in reality. Yes, I am not even coming to regret. But I had to explain this view because it would give us some clue what that integral structure may be. 3 minutes. So, having said all that, Sri Aurobindo puts this question: is there at all, or is there still a secret of the Veda? And if there is no such thing, then there is no need to study it. And I have also a question: why do we have to study these Vedas and Upanishads and so on? Socrates. What is it really happening to us? Why do we do? Why the reader has to refer to Socrates? Why Heidegger has to take Socrates and to look into Plato? What's the point? Are we not evolved enough to really think for ourselves? And I can understand that the depth of historical consciousness is essential for our evolution. And if we do not have that view, what happens that we make out of Sri Aurobindo a new prophet, one of many, who is the same as everybody else, but has a little different view on things, which is also very fine. But it is not so. Sri Aurobindo takes deep into the depth of the Vedic beginnings, and he finds there the meaning, and he brings it forward. Now I'm coming to this final 2 minutes thing. The last hymn of Rig Veda, which I was thinking about for more than 20 years. And I thought that one day I will discover it, because it's a very strange message. It's a very unusual hymn, and you will not find such hymns nowhere in the Rig Veda itself. And some of you may know it, yes? I will read the hymn and will make comments. It is hymned by Samvanana Rishi. Samvanana Angirasa. Samvanana means the one who is causing mutual love, who is bringing mutual understanding, enjoyment. And it starts with these words: some, together, double sum. Sam id yuvase vrishanagne vishvanyarya ilaspade samidhyase samno vasuni abhara samgachadvam samvadadvam samvo manansi janatam deva bhagam yatha purve samjanana upasate. So I will start translating. O Lord, Rishan, O flame divine, unite all in the absolute unity. Sam id yuvase. You unite all in this absolute unity, double sum. Vishwani arye a. Bring all the gifts to, or all you bring to the one who aspires for you. You are totally kindled in the place of the truth. Ilaspade samidhyase. Bring to us our luminous treasures. Sano vasuni abhara. Samgajatvam. Go together. Samvadadvam. Speak together. Samvomanansi janatam. Realize your thoughts together. Now, according to Gebser, the fundamental differences in structures is that in the magic structure, people have tribes. They live as one body, big body. And it was interesting to listen to Dudu Dien, who is one of the members of Advisory Council in Auroville. He's from Africa. And he was telling us that in his culture, people do not speak. They come together, they sit around the tree, and they understand each other without words. There is no expression in word. And it is exactly what magic structure represents. There is no yet word expressing the soul, because the word is the expression of the soul. The myth, the origin, where we are coming from, is a creation of the soul. So samgachatvam, come together, is the magic structure. Samvadadvam, express yourselves together is a mythical structure. Samvomanansi janatam. May your minds be together. Mental structure. We have three structures mentioned in one line. Deva bhagam yatha purve. As the first gods sat at the sacrifice, samjanana upasate, agreeing to take portion in their sacrifice. There is a projection of integral structure from the very beginning of creation, and it took shape in time in structures of consciousness or in the evolution. And then it goes on. Samano mantra samiti samani. Samanam manah sahachittamesham. Samanam mantram abhimantrayevaha. Samane namo havisha juhomi. Uniting is their word. Uniting is their gathering. Uniting is their mind of those gods who have one consciousness. It is this uniting word that I speak to you now. It is with this uniting offering of yours that I offer. Samaniva akuti. Samana hridayani vaha samanamastuvo mano yathavah susahasati. May your will in the body, akuti, or aspiration, intention of being, be uniting. May your aspirations in the heart be uniting. May your mind be uniting. Is in your common well-being together. As in your common well-being together. Su saha asati. As you perfectly together should be. These are the last words of Rig Veda. So, after understanding that Rig Veda represents this integral structure of consciousness, I could clearly see its influence on all Indian civilization. I can clearly understand what happened in the Gita, in Upanishads, in Tantra, in all varieties and darshanas. And when we go to the meetings and Nayayaka speaks and Vaiyakarana speaks and Vedantin speaks, I'm finishing, they are not quarreling. They are enjoying differences in views. Why? Because they have a foundation of integral structure. They presume oneness and they look for differences and enjoy differences. And this is the foundation of Indian culture. Thank you very much.
Department of Philosophy, Jadavpur University, and we have also set up a center for Sri Aurobindo studies at the Department of Philosophy, Jadavpur University, and I am acting as a coordinator of that center. And Jadavpur University has also very close link with Sri Aurobindo, because in the year 1905, when he came back to Calcutta, leaving his Baroda service, he joined National Council of Education Bengal as its principal. And at that time, Satish Chandra Mukhopadhyay, he was also registrar of that National Council of Education Bengal. And what now stands and has been recognized as Jadavpur University, its parental body actually is National Council of Education Bengal. So in that sense, Jadavpur University bears a very close link with Sri Aurobindo. And I express my heartfelt gratitude to Ananda Reddy ji for giving me this opportunity to share my views with this august gathering. And in fact, since time is short, actually what I have tried to do, I have tried to raise the question, does the universe provide for morality? Because morality is a sphere with which all of us are familiar, because in our day-to-day life in various ways, these moral questions, moral issues bother us. However, I will read out some of the portions that I have tried to cover in this lecture. Now, in the realm of morality, the notions like dharma, adharma, these frequently come. But from the other perspective, when I try to account for morality, the question that occurs frequently in our mind is, why should one be moral? What is the need for morality? Now, as an explanation, in fact, we can refer to evil that generally awakens in us the sense of rightness, wrongness. So the problem of evil, this is a very, very vast problem, and that has been dealt variously in philosophy, both Indian and Western. So the problem of evil, it would not be correct to maintain that philosophers are unanimous in their approach to issues relating to evil. But the question that is important, that has been frequently raised, why is there pain and suffering? Now, evil, it may make itself its presence in various ways. Now, suffering, that is also another form of appearance of evil. So the question is, why is there pain and suffering in the world, which is also considered to be a kind of evil? Now, people who suffer, what we find in our day-to-day ordinary experience, that people who suffer are not only people like Hitler or say Stalin or Bin Laden, but thousands of good-hearted, innocent people experience the ravages of violent crime, terminal disease and other evils. An earthquake kills hundreds of people. Here I am also referring to evil, which are often referred to as natural evil. In fact, in my discussion, I don't want to enter into all those intricacies, that is, which evil is natural evil, whether there is any kind of morality involved there or not. I'm taking all sorts of evil under one umbrella. Now, a pancreatic cancer patient suffers prolonged excruciating pain and dies. A religious fanatic pushes to death 85 people in very last few days back. We got that news from the newspaper. Millions starve and die. So the existence of evil and suffering in our world seems to pose a serious challenge to the belief in the existence of a perfect God. In fact, this is the way, in fact, the problem has very much troubled Western mind, Western philosophers. In Western philosophy, if we see how the problem of evil has been posed and discussed, now the problem of evil to the Western philosophers is, generally speaking, a problem of reconciling belief in God with the existence of evil. Because generally God is supposed to be all-powerful, benevolent, omniscient being. And side by side, if there are evils, then how to account for omnipotence, benevolence, powerfulness of God, of a perfect God, with the existence of evil? So generally, the philosophers in the West, since time immemorial, they are struggling to make room for evil and with the existence of a perfect God. And some have gone to the extreme. They have rejected existence of God to account for evil, because evil, the very existence of evil, is something given to our very experiential, we can say, in our very day-to-day experience. This is an experiential fact, and it is very difficult to ignore or reject outright the existence of evil. Now here, in fact, in whole of Indian philosophical tradition, the problem of evil has been viewed little bit differently. Here, we put more emphasis on the suffering that is also pain and suffering, that is also one of the, we can say, outcomes of evil. And in the philosophy of Sri Aurobindo, how he has tried to tackle this problem of evil, or actually what are the solutions and clues we can get from Sri Aurobindo, that I have tried to work out here. Now, the first and foremost thing to begin with Sri Aurobindo, now Sri Aurobindo looks on evil and falsehood to be on a par. In fact, par in the sense, he is trying to provide us some sort of account, we can say philosophical account, from the viewpoint of his integral monism. We know he is an integral monist. Now, the first and foremost thing he says, the Western philosophical tradition that raises some doubt about the existence of God, and sometimes it also leads to the idea that the evil is something redundant. The evil, that is something creating all sorts of problems. So it would have been better if we could have relegated evil to the realm of something which is useless, completely unnecessary something. But if we come to Sri Aurobindo, and in fact, I'm very much sure that Sri Aurobindo's account is very much in tune with whole Indian philosophical tradition, the tradition that we have inherited from Vedas and Upanishads, which would say that yes, in evil, in pain and suffering, there is some sort of necessity. This is important, that evil, pain, suffering, this is not something bogus, to be banished, to be eliminated. Now, I'm reading, yet if that be reality is what we have supposed it to be, there must be, this is a quotation from the Life Divine, where Sri Aurobindo is saying, there must be some necessity for the appearance of these contrary phenomena, some significance, some function this had to serve in the economy of the universe. And again, further, a few pages behind from that, is saying that there must be behind it a significance of the all consciousness which permits and uses it for some indispensable function in the present workings of our self-experience and world experience. So here, evil is something important. It has some definite role to play. Now, how to understand this problem of evil? Now, there are various stages from where we can consider the problem of evil. Now, first, its relation to the absolute, the supreme reality. When we are talking about pain, suffering as consequences of evil, we need to understand all those phenomena in their relation to the absolute. And secondly, its origin and place in the cosmic workings, because in our experiential existence, we are not in a position to deny the existence of evil. And thirdly, its action and point of hold in the individual being. Now, let me first try to elaborate the features that have been derived from Sri Aurobindo's vision in the Life Divine. The first and foremost thing, he is saying there can be no absolute evil. This is important. That is, there can be no absolute evil. Now, of good and evil, it can be said that one exists by true consciousness and the other survives only by wrong consciousness. So, evil exists by wrong consciousness. And human values, this is important. Human values, in fact, nowadays we are frequently talking about value, about introducing value education in our curriculum, but sometimes we are really at a loss to how to interpret the notion of values. Now, in one sense, that is very important, that values, when we are talking about values, it has very much link with the human being, with the human existence. So he would say that evil have no fundamentality, no power of infinity or eternal being, but it must first be noted that it is only in cosmic manifestation that they become possible. They cannot pre-exist in the timeless being, for they are incompatible with the unity and bliss that are its substance. So here, evil, according to Sri Aurobindo, it is not fundamental, it is not inherent or any potency of the all consciousness, but at the same time, here Sri Aurobindo differs from Shankaracharya, who would say that mithya, of course that is also a very technical expression, and that needs lots of elaboration and explanation, but Sri Aurobindo would say that it is real. Evil is real. Evil is nothing mithya. So, according to him, now we need to know how does this evil originate? What accounts for this evil? I'll just say in 2-3 lines. I just would read out then. Now, according to him, ignorance. This is also a very technical term in Indian philosophy, the notion of ignorance. Generally we translate it for avidya, ajnanam, but here ignorance, it is also a sort of knowledge. It is a knowledge that is self-limiting knowledge. Now the ignorance, according to him, ignorance is in its nature a self-limiting knowledge, oblivious of the integral self-awareness. And the process of consciousness, again, ignorance is nothing alien to that all consciousness. It is just born out of the process of consciousness. The process of consciousness brought ignorance into existence. Now, how could this manifold ignorance or this narrowly self-limiting and separative knowledge arise and come into action or maintain itself in action in an absolute being who must be absolute consciousness and therefore cannot be subject to ignorance? Ignorance is the part of the one, a development of its consciousness, knowingly adopted, to which it is not forcibly subjected, but which it uses for cosmic purpose. So the origin of ignorance is sought in some self-absorbed concentration of tapas. I am not entering into this all things. So finally, the relativity of good and evil is a fact of our experience, but it is similarly a byproduct. It is not a permanent factor native to existence. So the duality, this duality of good and evil, so far, yes, thank you. So far, matter is concerned, matter is neutral to this duality. It is, in that sense, matter is irresponsible. These values insisted on by the human being do not exist in material nature. The duality of good and evil begins with conscious life and emerges fully with the development of mind in life. The vital mind, the mind of desire and the sensation is the creator of sense of evil and of the fact of evil. So I think time is short. So I'm getting all the while notices. So this is in brief, very brief, what Sri Aurobindo would say and give us an account of evil. Thank you.
And sharing the session with Vladimir and Dr. Indrani makes me feel like the two cows grazing on the pastures along the highway when a milk van passes by. Big bold letters on the milk van read pasteurized, homogenized, vitamin A and D added. One of the cows looks up to the other and says, "Makes you feel sort of inadequate, doesn't it?" So I am bereft of any degrees, any research, any deep knowledge of any kind. I am like the cow grazing leisurely on the pastures. And I would like to deal my inadequacy by quickly telling you about myself as just a student of Sanskrit and the Isha Upanishad of Vladimir's, which was a fallout of my course with Belu of Foundations of Indian Culture. And while I was doing this religion and spirituality with her, Sri Aurobindo mentions that the only way India can become the spiritual guru of the world, he says somewhere, and it has to reveal and find again the secret that is contained in the Vedas. So that led me to the study of these scriptures. And for today's discussion, I am taking up Isha Upanishad because we are discussing Sri Aurobindo's contributions to the global spiritual scenario. And it is this secret which Sri Aurobindo has brought out, the knowledge of which we had lost, because the mind that has composed the Vedas or the Upanishads was the symbolic mind, which we no longer understand or appreciate. And all the commentaries that we have of Indian scholars like Sayana or Yaska or the Western philosophers or Dr. Radhakrishnan and others, or of even Shankara, are there to help us, but Sri Aurobindo has brought it again in light of the future and in light with his own supramental consciousness. I have chosen Isha for 3 reasons. First of all, Isha Upanishad contains just 18 verses, but which encapsulate the essence of Indian spirituality. It is the conclusive chapter of the Vajasanei or the Yajnavalkya Samhita of the Shukla Yajurveda. And though it is a Upanishad called the Isha Upanishad, it has the essence and flavor of the Vedas, and therefore it combines in itself the symbolism of the Vedas and the metaphysics of the Vedanta. Secondly, I have chosen Isha Upanishad because it seeks to reconcile the apparent contradictions and the opposites. It deals with the eternal questions of the Lord and the world. The Lord, which is infinite and eternal, and the world, which is temporal and phenomenal. The other contradictions it resolves are of action and freedom from action, how one can act while being free in it, about renunciation and enjoyment, how one can enjoy only by renouncing, about Vidya and Avidya, which Madam mentioned, Vidya, which is the knowledge of oneness, and Avidya, which is the knowledge of multiplicity. And Isha Upanishad goes on to say how all these apparently opposite contradictions are actually meeting and helping to find the one, Brahman. The third reason of choosing Isha Upanishad is because this is the only Indian scripture that I have read so far. Now, since the time is short, I will just take up the first 2 verses of this Upanishad and discuss it, how it differs from Shankara's worldview, which was also very comprehensive and very solid as Madam pointed out, and yet how Sri Aurobindo takes it into a new level and gives us a new insight. The first shloka says, Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam Yat Kincha Jagatyam Jagat Tena Tyaktena Bhunjitha Ma Gridha Kasya Svidhanam. I'll just take two words from this to show you the difference between. The meaning of this shloka is, all this is for the inhabitation of the Lord. This is Sri Aurobindo's explanation. All that is moving in the moving universe. To enjoy all, renounce all. Do not lust after other people's possessions. Now, Vasyam as a root in Sanskrit, Vas, has two meanings. One is to be clothed by, and the second is to be inhabited by. Shankara takes the first meaning and therefore proceeds to say that all this has to be clothed by the Lord. Therefore, this is unreal and we have to lose the sense of this unreal objective reality in the soul perception of the Brahman. So he uses this meaning of Vasyam, whereas Sri Aurobindo points out that if this is the meaning of the word Vasyam we take, then we are kind of negating the whole meaning of this Upanishad, which is the reconciliation of the world and the Lord, and we cannot renounce the world. So Sri Aurobindo uses the word Vasyam as inhabited by. So all this has to be inhabited by the Lord. And how can it be inhabited? How can world, which is so different from Lord, come together? Because in the 8th verse, he says, Sa Paryagat Shukramakayam, where he says it is he who has gone abroad, which means it is the Lord that has, in the relativity of things, expanded himself. So the world is the Lord. So we can see the subtle difference. Though it is subtle, it makes the whole philosophical shift, a paradigm shift of the understanding. The second word here is Kasya Svidhanam. Normally it is understood as other people's possession. Do not lust after other people's possession. Now this is a very common knowledge. I mean, why should it be there in the Isha Upanishad? This we know since childhood. So there must be something more to it. So the other meaning of Kasya Svidhanam is not only other people's wealth, Kasya, it also means the question, Kasya, whose wealth is it anyway? This is the Lord's wealth. And who are you in your highest being? You are the Lord himself. So do not lust after things because they are yours anyway, but yours not as Anish, but as Ish. So instead of, it is the movement of the ego, as Dr. Reddy was telling in his, this hunger for power, knowledge and enjoyment. And we try to achieve it through a separative consciousness of the ego. Whereas this can only be achieved once we grow into the stature of the Lord, because then it is all ours anyway. So this is how Sri Aurobindo recovers the scriptures for us with a new light and a new meaning. I'll move on because of the lack of time to the second shloka, which is Kurvanne veha karmani jiji vishet chatam samaha evam tvai nanya theto asti na karma lipyate nare. Here he says, doing verily works in the world, one must wish to live for 100 years. It is only in thee and not otherwise that karma does not stick to man. Now again, to a mind, as Vladimir was saying, Sankhyaik mind, which is mental, this says, you have to do your works in this universe. But why is it the second verse just after the first? Because Kurvanne veha karmani, by doing works in the world. Now, it comes after the first verse, because in the first verse, you are asked to renounce all to enjoy all. So when one has reached the stage of having renounced all, why should one wish to work in this world? When you are enjoying the beatitude of the divine and the beyond, Why should you deign and do works in this world of suffering and of all the contradictions? So this comes straight after the first verse, which says that we have to do works in this world even though we have renounced all. Whereas Shankara, he translates kurvanne veha karmani as Vedic sacrifices which the ordinary people have to carry out, because it is the knowledgeable who are seeking after knowledge. They don't have to work because you are bound by karma. So it is only for the lesser enlightened to also have a spiritual existence that they have to carry out Vedic sacrifices. So the first karmani he translates as doing Vedic sacrifices, and the second na karma lipyate nare, he says it is the evil action. That karma is something which takes you away, which binds you here. Whereas Sri Aurobindo says that it is only by working with the freedom that one can be free from work. I have the last minute here where I would say about renunciation and enjoyment. Why Sri Aurobindo says that it is only by renouncing all that we can enjoy all, because till we are attached and we do not have something, we are unhappy because we want to have it. But once we have it, what happens? Are we still happy? At that point, we have this fear of losing what we have gained. So as long as we are attached to the object of desire, we cannot enjoy it completely. To enjoy it, one must be free from it. So these are the deeper insights, which is not only in the Upanishads, but also in the Gita, in the secret of the Veda, and in all the Upanishads, which Sri Aurobindo has very beautifully, I would say, recovered, because this knowledge was there, but it had eluded us, we had lost it. And we should today, because it is a very doubly special day, Mother and Sri Aurobindo meeting to chart out the future course of humanity, and we are celebrating Sri Aurobindo's 100 years, we should bow our heads with utter gratitude to Sri Aurobindo for bringing us this knowledge which India had lost and which is for the future of the whole of humanity. Thank you.